Hey there YouTube family, and welcome to another video on my channel. Thanks for stopping in. Today we're going to dive into the election results in New York City, the mayoral primary yesterday, and what's got some people excited, but a lot of people shocked. Let's dive on in. So as you can see here, back in April, Mamdani was nowhere to be seen really on the scene. He's at 8%, 7% likelihood, right? And as time went on here, up to yesterday, it just got closer and closer and closer. And yesterday he became the official Democratic nominee for the New York City mayoral election. So as we know, New York City is a big Democratic base. So you can assume that whoever wins that primary is more than likely going to be the next mayor of NYC. Well, let's see what some of his policies are and what's got people, some excited and a lot concerned. This Fox News business article here, it just highlights a few of his policies. Mamdani pushes for $30 minimum wage, corporate tax hikes, and government-owned grocery stores. Very, very different. You know, the $30 minimum wage would basically double the current minimum wage, not quite double, but I think it's like an 81% increase to the current minimum wage there. That is a huge increase, and that is gonna make everything more expensive on the bottom. So retail purchases, fast food, you know, food inside of restaurants, grocery stores, all that kind of stuff is going to be a lot more expensive if they have to pass along this $30 minimum wage, because the corporations and the businesses, especially in this economy, are not going to absorb those costs. They're going to pass it along to the consumer. So while people will be making more, life will be more expensive for everybody. People on the bottom making minimum wage, they will be making more, yes, but in turn, they're going to be spending more as well. So this doesn't really help as much as it sounds like. It sounds nice on the surface, right? We would love for people to make a $30 minimum wage. I am not against that, but is it a livable condition? I do not believe it is. New York City's economy is already suffering due to the recent years and the recent issues and the recent spending. This is not a good idea. Then let's talk about corporate tax hikes. Well, we've seen this play out time and time and again too here in our country. And what happens is these corporations, they find somewhere else to do business. So it doesn't matter if you raise this or not, because those corporations, they're gonna leave, they're gonna find somewhere cheaper to do business, and you're gonna have less tax revenue because you will have less corporations, even though those corporations that stay are paying a higher tax percentage, right? So this doesn't really work out. Again, it sounds nice in theory for a lot of people, it's a disaster in reality. And then government-owned grocery stores. This is a radical idea. I am not a fan, especially with the looting and the theft. And then you've got this whole idea with the corporate tax hikes. That would be less money to fund something like this. I think that's another disaster on top of two other disasters, right? So this would be bad for New York City. And you don't have to believe me. Maybe I'm wrong, but we can see how it plays out. If he gets in and he puts these things in place, we'll watch and we'll see. I believe it really is a poor idea. And then we got Eric Adams, who is the current city mayor, right? And he is ripping Mamdani as being a snake oil salesman. And that is tough rhetoric coming out of the mayor, but I don't disagree that these things that he is selling as Mamdani is selling will come back to bite the people of New York City. I do honestly believe that. I believe you'll see corporations leave, you'll see a lot of wealth leave, even more so than it already has, and you'll just be left with less in the end. So I do not blame Eric Adams for taking up that point and being outspoken. Here's another one where New York Assemblyman tries to confront Tom Homan over arrest of Columbia University anti-Israel activist. So let's just watch how this guy behaves himself, and you can decide for yourself if you think this is mayoral material. I'm not going to turn the sound on this one, but you can see that he is pushing up against police officers. Keep in mind, these are guys just doing their job. This guy right here is just doing his job, and he's out here pushing up against people, trying to cause a stir, trying to maybe incite some violence in some ways. I don't really know what he was trying to do, but I don't know what you were taught growing up, but I was taught we don't put our hands on other people, right? So I don't like to see that out of somebody who's supposed to be a politician, a professional. I know there is a section of people on the left that like this kind of stuff, that like to see people push, and they like to see people on the left rebel, right, against the system and against Trump. But where does that get us? I mean, you got to sit and ask yourself, honestly, if everybody starts acting like that, what happens to America? What happens to the social contract? What happens to the fiber of our nation? This is no good. That is not leadership material, in my opinion. And then I was over here on Grok earlier, and I asked Grok where his funding came from, and why Grok did say that he had a ton of small donations, but that does not necessarily mean they came from normal people. I mean, I don't know if a company can give a donation of $50 500 times. You know, I don't know how that works. I'd have to dig deeper into that, and I encourage you to, right? We always talk about critical thinking on this channel. Make sure we critically think about this one. But here are some of the big organizations that have come out and put their name behind them. Council on American Islamic Relations Unity and Justice Fund contributed $100,000. So, I mean, that's a big contribution, and obviously it's from the Islamic Relations. That's not really a fund that you would want normally backing you as an American, especially in the same city that 9/11 occurred in. That does not mean Islamic people are bad or their religion's bad or anything like that, but that is kind of shocking that we're, 24 years out from 9/11, and we have these kind of people backing a mayoral candidate openly. And then this one was interesting to me, Michigan Leaders for Tomorrow. Well, why would the Michigan Leaders for Tomorrow be funding a mayoral race in New York City, right? So I was looking at this, and it is primarily funded from Dearborn area Muslim and Arab donors. So this whole election seems to have an undertone of a Islamic and Muslim undertone, of the funding behind it. And I'm not sure why people from other areas of the country are donating so much money to the NYC mayoral election, other than they want to see more leadership from these groups and these backgrounds. Now, I do believe diversity is a cornerstone in America. I fully believe that. But you put out some radical ideas and poor economic agendas, as these ideas are here. I believe that you are concocting a recipe for disaster in New York City. New York City's already fallen from grace in a lot of ways, and this would further push it down the hole. I mean, you want to talk about turning the city into Gotham, we are on the doorstep. So this is what's going on. That's my take. I know a lot of people are excited about them and like them, but if you look behind the policies and you really get behind the curtain, these things are empty. They're empty of any real logic, they're empty of any real promise, and they're empty of any real future. And I honestly feel sorry for the people in New York City. I honestly feel like they're getting told one thing, but they're not getting the straight facts. They're not getting told what will actually happen and how bad it will actually affect them. Now you might think, hey, you're wrong. Leave a comment, let me know. I'd love to know what you guys think, and we can watch it play out together. And that's the great thing about the internet. The comments will be on there, and we'll see how it plays out. We'll be able to look back and be critical of each other in that regard and have some fun with it. But thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, and make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.